So we just finished our first reading of To Kill a Mockingbird, and now we're going to begin our discussions on it. So now I have my notes over here, so if I look away, it's okay. It's just me looking at my notes. So our first theme that we're going to discuss is that of racism, which is encountered throughout the novel. This is pretty obvious as the novel is set in the 1930s in southern Alabama. So pretty much the entire white community of Macomb is racist in one way, shape, or form. Let's see. So they think that blacks can't exist without them, when in reality we see throughout the novel that it's the opposite. Now, if you weren't looking for certain clues throughout the novel, you might not have picked up on this. But, for example, Jem builds a snowman in the novel. And if you look at it, and in the text really closely, you'll see that it says that the snowman is built white on the outside with snow, but on the inside it's packed with dirt. Now this works as an allusion to the entire community of Macomb, as the black people exist inside while the white acts as the surface. The whites don't see how much the blacks really do for the community as they're on the outside, but you could take away the whites in the community and the snowman would still be standing just as dirt. So you can see how the different races in Macomb react to different things. The main, most obvious example of racism in the novel would be the trial. So we know that, we know that Tom Robinson isn't really guilty. We find that out through Atticus's trial. However, since he's on a jury against a white defendant with an all-white jury, we pretty much know he's going to be considered guilty. So what this shows is that we can't have a black person's word taken over white in the novel. Now, this happens more often than not in this time period, as black people tended to have a lot of issues if they were accused by a white woman. For example, there was the trial of Emmett Hill, which not a lot of you are familiar with, but it occurred in the 1950s in Mississippi, and a white woman accused a young black male of hollering at her. So what happened was he ended up dead the next day. 2 men were found to have participated in this, but they were found not guilty. They later came out and said that they did commit it and that they weren't really sorry for it. So we can see where ideas such as this happen. Another example of the racism in To Kill a Mockingbird is the character of Mr. Dolphus. Now, he has mixed children and is in a relationship with a black woman, which for the time period is a huge issue and one that is just not okay. So the way he gets around this is he pretends to be an alcoholic. He's often seen just drinking what is later determined to be Coke, but the town residents believe it's alcohol. So he actually uses the excuse of alcoholism to avoid arguments and confrontations about his choice in who he loves, which, again, is a large issue. So our first question is, why do you think Atticus is portrayed as a white knight in a town of racists? So what I mean by this is, Atticus is the only main character we encounter, besides Scout and Jem, who aren't racist. This seems odd in a novel full of adults who are all racist, and the one person who isn't happens to be the main character's father. So I want you to write in your blog about why you think the author portrayed him this way. Is she right in this, or is she wrong, and how so? So the other main theme that we encounter in the novel is the loss of innocence. So after the trial, Jem realizes that the entire town is racist, which he didn't encounter before. He always assumed everyone was treated equal, as many children are. And then a final theme that we encounter is sexism. This is encountered throughout Scout's life, as she's often told to act more as a lady. So our second question then is, why is Scout portrayed as a tomboy instead of a girly girl? So I want you to write in your blog about these 2 questions, answer them thoroughly, review what you wrote, read your other classmates, and tomorrow during class we're going to bring these in to discuss them. So remember, I want you to think about the different themes we've talked about, those being racism, mostly, the loss of innocence, and sexism. Try to incorporate all of them in your lesson and your answer, and we'll talk about them tomorrow. Thanks for watching the video.